The grand hall of the New York Fashion Week venue shimmered under golden chandeliers. The air buzzed with excitement as models strutted down the runway, each draped in Amara's latest collection, an exquisite fusion of modern high fashion and rich cultural heritage. The sound of cameras clicking filled the air, capturing every detail of her breathtaking designs. Fashion critics leaned in, nodding in approval. Then, as the final model made her way down the runway, the room erupted in thunderous applause. Amara had done it. Backstage, she stood before a full-length mirror, her emerald gown, her own masterpiece, clinging elegantly to her form. She should have been celebrating, reveling in the success she had worked so hard to achieve. And yet, something felt missing. Her phone buzzed. A message from Malik. "You did it, Amara. But is this the success you truly wanted?" Then another, from her mother. "You've made us proud, my love. But your home misses you. We miss you." The echoes of applause faded as an unsettling thought took root in her heart. Was this what she truly wanted? That night, Amara stood on the balcony of a luxury apartment, gazing out at the dazzling New York skyline. The city had crowned her a star, yet beyond the flashing billboards and towering skyscrapers, she saw something else, a longing for more. "Am I chasing the right dreams?" she whispered to herself, the city lights casting a glow over her pensive face. The next morning, she entered her office with a quiet determination. Handing in her resignation letter, she felt a weight lift from her shoulders. Though surprised, her colleagues respected her decision, hosting a heartfelt farewell party in her honor. As she laughed and reminisced with them, she felt a deep gratitude for the journey that had brought her here. Her boss raised a glass. "To Amara, a true star in the fashion world. May your next chapter be even more brilliant." That night, with a newfound clarity, she booked a one-way ticket home. It was time. The warm, humid air wrapped around Amara as she stepped off the plane. The familiar sounds of bustling voices, honking cars, and the scent of home-cooked meals filled the air. It had been years since she walked these streets. But now, she was returning, not as the ambitious young designer desperate for approval, but as a woman who had conquered the fashion world. The moment her eyes met her mother's at the airport, a rush of emotions overwhelmed her. Without a word, they embraced. And for the first time in years, Amara felt something she had almost forgotten: peace. The drive home was filled with laughter, warm embraces, and memories shared. Yet, beneath the joy, there was an unspoken tension. Her father, ever the realist, finally voiced the question that lingered in everyone's mind. "You had everything in New York. Why leave it all behind?" he asked, his voice both curious and concerned. Amara smiled, gazing at the familiar city skyline in the distance. "Because success means nothing if I can't share it where it truly matters." The next day, Amara wandered through the old textile market, the place where her love for fashion had been born. The rhythmic hum of sewing machines filled the air, the scent of freshly dyed fabrics surrounded her. Vendors called out, displaying vibrant cloths woven with history. She ran her fingers over the intricate patterns, a nostalgic warmth blooming in her chest. "This is where it all began," she whispered to herself, her heart swelling with a deep sense of belonging. Later that day, Amara stood in a vacant studio space in the heart of the city. The room was dimly lit, dust coated the floors, and cracks lined the walls. To most, it was nothing but an abandoned building. But to Amara, it was a blank canvas. "This will be my fashion house," she whispered, determination gleaming in her eyes. From behind her, a familiar voice broke the silence. Malik, who had followed her journey from afar, finally spoke. "Then let's build it together," he said, stepping beside her with a smile. With renewed purpose, they spent days cleaning, painting, and transforming the space into a vibrant atelier. Fabric rolls stacked high, sketches filled the walls, and the air buzzed with creativity. Amara's passion had reignited, and with every stitch and design, she felt something she hadn't in years: true fulfillment. Starting fresh wasn't easy. Despite her name carrying weight in the fashion world, local investors remained hesitant. They questioned whether she could truly bring global success to her hometown. Suppliers demanded upfront payments. Clients hesitated to trust her brand. But Amara was not the same woman she was before. She poured her heart into her work, designing collections inspired by her culture, training local artisans, and blending modern fashion with traditional craftsmanship. She was no longer trying to fit into the industry. She was redefining it. Yet, the sleepless nights, the financial strain, and the skepticism from others weighed on her like an anchor. One evening, Amara sat alone in the dimly lit studio, exhaustion written across her face. Unfinished designs covered the table, fabric swatches lay scattered across the floor. Her head rested in her hands as doubt crept in. Then, the sound of footsteps. Malik walked in, 2 cups of tea in hand. He placed one beside her and sat down. "You built an empire in New York, Amara. Don't let doubt win now," he said, his voice steady, reassuring. She looked up at him, her fingers tracing the embroidered fabric on the table. Her voice was barely above a whisper. "What if I fail?" Malik stood beside her, his gaze unwavering. "Then we try again, and again, until you turn this dream into a reality." Amara exhaled slowly, the weight in her chest eased. Determination flickered in her eyes once more. She wouldn't fail. She couldn't. And so, she pushed forward. Day by day, stitch by stitch, she built her dream from the ground up. Slowly but surely, the local community began to take notice. Her dedication, her passion, it inspired others. What started as a struggling studio soon became a symbol of hope and innovation. Amara had fought for her place in the world. And this time, she wasn't just chasing success, she was building a legacy. While Amara built her dream, Zari watched from the shadows. Back in New York, Zari had once been Amara's fiercest competition, talented, ambitious, and unapologetic. But unlike Amara, she had relied on connections, not perseverance. Now, the industry had turned its back on her. Clients rejected her, brands refused to collaborate, and investors no longer trusted her. Every article that praised Amara's return home felt like a personal attack. She left, and yet, she still wins. Zari seethed, scrolling through social media posts about Amara's rising brand. Her grip tightened around the phone, her jaw clenched in frustration. Desperate to reclaim her place, Zari made a bold move. She reached out to an investor with a rival collection, stealing Amara's designs. She believed it was her chance to take back the spotlight. But the plan backfired. "This feels uninspired," the investor said, flipping through her designs with disinterest. "You used to be bold, Zari. Now, you're just trying to be someone else." Zari's stomach twisted. She had always been confident, but now, for the first time, she felt exposed, like a fraud. The investors saw through her desperation, and one by one, they turned her down. Alone in her dimly lit apartment, Zari sat on the floor, surrounded by sketches she no longer believed in. Her reflection stared back from the mirror, dark circles under her eyes, the weight of her choices etched into her face. The woman who once commanded rooms now looked defeated. She let out a shaky breath and whispered, "I did this to myself." Realizing the depth of her envy and its consequences, Zari made a choice she never thought she would. She reached out to Amara. Her hands trembled as she typed the message. "I know I don't deserve this, but I need your advice. I want to start over. I want to do it the right way." For the first time in years, Zari wasn't scheming or competing. She was simply trying to find her way back. Amara's fashion house was thriving, her dream finally taking shape. But amid the success, there was still something she hadn't faced, her feelings for Malik. He had always been there, quietly supporting her, never asking for more. But deep down, she knew the truth. He was more than a friend, more than a supporter. He was her home. One evening, as they stood on the studio's rooftop, the golden glow of the city stretching before them, Malik finally spoke. "I've loved you in silence, Amara," he admitted, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "I waited because I knew you had dreams to chase. But now, I need to know, am I a part of your future?" Her breath hitched. She had always believed that love and success couldn't coexist, that she had to choose one or the other. But Malik had never asked her to choose. He had simply stood beside her, believing in her dreams as much as she did. She turned to him, her eyes shining, the weight of the moment settling in her heart. "You always were," she whispered, the words carrying a truth she had long known but never spoken. That night, under the soft glow of city lights, Malik took a deep breath, reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. He opened it, revealing a simple yet elegant ring. "Then spend forever with me," he said softly. Amara's heart swelled. Tears welled in her eyes, but they weren't of doubt or hesitation. They were of certainty, of joy. "Yes," she whispered, her voice steady, her hands trembling as she held his. Their love story, once written in patience and quiet devotion, now flourished openly. Together, they built a life filled with love, support, and shared dreams. And in that moment, Amara realized, true success wasn't just about achievements. It was about the people who stood beside you, the ones who made the journey worthwhile. Her wedding was more than just a ceremony. It was a celebration of everything she had built. Every struggle, every sacrifice, every lesson had led her to this moment. Success, love, and family, all woven together like the delicate embroidery on her gown. Dressed in a breathtaking custom gown of gold and ivory, Amara stood before her family, her heart full. The warm glow of lanterns surrounded them, laughter and music filling the air. Her father, once her greatest skeptic, now held her hand tightly. His eyes glistened with pride as he whispered, "You proved us wrong in the best way, my daughter. We couldn't be prouder." Amara smiled, her throat tightening with emotion. This was what she had longed for, not just their approval, but their understanding. As she turned to Malik, the world around them faded. He looked at her with the same unwavering support he always had. But today, there was something more: certainty, forever. They exchanged vows, their voices steady, their love undeniable. From a distance, Zari watched, her heart conflicted. The sting of jealousy had faded, replaced by something unexpected: admiration. Amara had fought for her dreams, but she had never lost herself in the process. For the first time, Zari allowed herself to wonder, maybe, just maybe, I can choose a different path. The wedding was a joyous occasion, filled with laughter, dancing, and heartfelt speeches. Amara's friends and family embraced Malik as one of their own, their love and acceptance wrapping around him like the warm evening air. And as the night stretched on, beneath the stars, Amara and Malik stood side by side, two souls who had walked separate paths, only to find that home had been with each other all along. The reception was a perfect blend of cultures, laughter, and love. The warm glow of lanterns flickered above, the rhythmic beats of traditional music filled the air, and the scent of rich, flavorful dishes wove through the evening breeze. Amara's closest friends, family, and even fellow designers had gathered, not just to celebrate her marriage, but to honor the journey that had brought her here. Every conversation, every embrace was a reminder of how far she had come. At one point, her mother reached out, gently touching her face, her eyes filled with emotion. "I once feared your path would lead you away from us forever," she said softly. "But instead, it brought you home." Amara felt her throat tighten, the weight of those words settling in her heart. She turned to Malik, gripping his hand, her voice steady and sure. "Home was always in my heart." As the night stretched on, laughter and joy filling the air, Amara and Malik sat together, speaking in quiet, hopeful tones. They shared their dreams for the future, of expanding their fashion house, of creating opportunities for young designers, of giving back to their community, and, one day, of raising a family together. Their love and commitment to each other and to their shared vision radiated through the room. It wasn't just their moment, it was a moment that inspired everyone around them. Because true success wasn't just about personal triumphs. It was about the people you uplifted along the way. The night had settled into a peaceful hush, the echoes of laughter and celebration now a gentle memory. Amara stood alone on the balcony of a fashion house, the warm glow of streetlights painting golden streaks across the city skyline. But this time, it wasn't the bright lights of New York that stretched before her. It was home, the place she had built, a sanctuary where dreams, culture, and love flourished together. A space where young designers dared to create, where tradition met innovation, and where she had finally found herself. She inhaled deeply, feeling the weight of the journey behind her and the endless possibilities ahead. Closing her eyes, she whispered to the night, "The path we choose makes us who we are." A soft breeze stirred around her, carrying her words into the quiet night, as if the universe itself acknowledged the truth in them. With a final glance at the world she had created, Amara turned away from the skyline, stepping back inside, not just into her fashion house, but into the future she had chosen. This story teaches that hard work and determination help people succeed, while jealousy and pride can lead to failure. It also shows that parents should support their children's dreams instead of forcing them to follow a different path. True success is not just about making money, but about being happy, growing as a person, and helping others.